So if you've never been before, welcome. Of course, if you've been before, welcome. Satsang is an old Sanskrit word meaning we sit together in authenticity, in our authenticity. I mean, the only reason I use it is because, in the early hippie days, in the late 60s, early 70s, and a little bit in the 80s as well, I used to go to Indian gurus doing satsangs. It was kind of part of the tapestry of life in those days, for me anyway. And I've always liked that, the sound of the word, really. I don't know why. I like the feeling that it invokes of togetherness and authenticity, not pretending. Because in general, in daily life, in the everyday world, just by force of our biological wiring as animals, we parade and we impress and we signal subtly or not so subtly to be included or to exclude others or to include others or to do whatever. And we're looking for, the animal has to establish its status in the hierarchy and all that kind of stuff that we are actually obliged to do, almost at an autonomic level. But with the facility of the internet, or if we were sitting together in a room, we'd soon divest ourselves of all that nonsense. But the internet actually precludes even needing to go through a process of letting go of our parading cells, should we call them. And that's a privilege, as well as which is a real privilege to be facilitating this for you. Here we are, 200 of us. Sue tells me a highly international crowd all the way from Andorra to the Antilles and America and Australia and everywhere in between, which is rather exciting, isn't it? So here we all sit. We could more or less be disembodied spirits for this, which is a beneficial thing in this instance, because I'm going to encourage us to come into what I call the big presence, the background presence in each of ourselves, because it's from this place that we're able to actually affect or we're able to conduct power properly and therefore affect change. And when I say power, I mean the chi, which is the Tao in motion. The whole universe is essentially chi or energy, and occasionally it snags and matter is formed, and here we all are. And nothing here is as it seems. We're constantly, included, fooled by the appearance of things. And because of the law of yin and yang, for every light there has to be shade. For every appearance of a certain thing there has to be its opposite underneath. Invariably, what's actually occurring behind the scenes is the exact opposite to the facade. I mean, if you think about it, if you have guests coming over for dinner, you tidy the house up. You'd make sure that the sewage under the house wasn't visible, for example. You wouldn't leave the garbage in a pile in the middle of the room. But that's actually what's really going on. And nor would you generally kind of welcome them at the door, and when they're saying, how are you, start talking about your neuroses and your innermost psychological processes and your existential turmoil, or go into detail about a physical ailment. I mean, you might if you know them well after a while, but generally you somehow you do. You normally say, yeah, I'm fine, thank you. So there's always the front, and but under that generally is the exact opposite. I'll explain the relevance of that in a minute, or it will come clear. This whole manifest reality that we inhabit, this world of appearances, as the Taoists call it, is the world of the 10,000 things. Is really a vast hall of mirrors. And in the fairground, when you go in the hall of mirrors, they're distorted. The reflection that they give back at you is a distorted one, but nonetheless you can recognize yourself in it. And it's exactly the same with external reality reflecting what's going on inside each of us. So while it seems that from time to time, or in certain areas of your life, that you're victim to situations or other people's oppression or bullying, the way situations or other people behave towards you merely reflects the way you're oppressing and bullying yourself. Often and mostly without even knowing it, because you're doing it all the time, so you get so used to it you don't realise you're even doing it. And it's subtle and it's discreet, insidious. And this Fresh Creations series is it's a gesture to ourselves that we have the opportunity, really at any moment, but specifically now, to reinvent, to recreate fresh our lives, our relationship with our lives. And today's theme is about unsticking yourself from ruts, basically, from situations that feel incredibly stuck and stifling and stymieing and entrapping, and setting yourself free so that your soul can feel the glee. And maybe feeling it's impossible, maybe feeling that the situation is intractable. And everything in our lives is a series of situations, and situations are generally comprised of other people and our transactions with them, or our web of transactions with them. And we enter into contracts, and then we collude in maintaining those contracts, whether formal contracts or implicit ones. And according to our kind of set of ethics at the time, we'll find it variously difficult or easy to extricate ourselves from situations when we vowed not to, for example, or we've made a commitment to. So we get our knickers in a twist about all of this stuff, and a lot of people, I know because I'm helping people all the time, are walking around feeling totally and utterly trapped and immobilized, at least in one area of their lives. And I think it might be easy to handle, it might not be a problem. But even, for me, I don't feel trapped in not in a way that I do feel trapped. But there are areas, obviously, that I'm oppressing myself and bullying myself. I'm working on it constantly. So that, I need this. It will be helpful to me, and it will certainly be helpful to you if you are feeling stuck or trapped. I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. And please understand that anything I say is not intended as absolute truth. This is just me presenting a view. It's for you to listen and decide for yourself. The gist of it is, though, if you can develop self-respect, which comprises being kind, supportive, encouraging, and nurturing towards yourself, and develop the awareness that you're not here to please others, but to live your adventure authentically while you have one to live. And though you'll always be doing the very best you can to be sympathetic, empathetic, kind, caring, and considerate to others, you're actually, honestly, free, I say free, to be however you choose and to do whatever you choose, despite all external appearances to the contrary. And others, once you've got that, genuinely got it, not just as a theory, but really feel it from the background presence in you, from the big presence in you outwards, others will then reflect that, mirror it, by treating you respectfully, kindly, and so on, and will spontaneously afford you the freedom you need and are willing to take for yourself. And this applies not just to one-on-one relationships, but situations involving lots of people, contracts, business situations, group situations, and what have you. However, to develop these qualities of kindness and compassion and so on, and apply them to yourself, requires internally repositioning yourself in relation to yourself. In other words, it requires internally shifting your relationship with you. I was thinking today about the cow path phenomenon, whereby cows always take the same path to and from the cowshed and pasture. Every single day they'll go exactly the same, on exactly the same path. And so where deep ruts in the path, which become therefore harder and harder to step out of because the sides are getting higher and higher. And the same thing occurs in the brain's pathway too, which makes your habitual attitude towards yourself difficult to shift. unless new pathways are cleared, because your mind will constantly go down the same rut, the same rutted pathway to that thinking process, which is the one you want to kind of step out of. Now, this aspect of you that is oppressive and bullying is not your nemesis. Contrary to appearances, while it might seem that this voice, the one that's nasty to you, that says, oh, come on, you should be doing better than this, what's the matter with you, work harder, the one that when you just finished a huge amount of work says, come on, no time to rest, on with the next thing, or you're a bit of an idiot, or you're not really up to the mark, and all that stuff that we say to ourselves, that voice, it seems like the enemy, doesn't it? It seems like the bit of you that's going to sabotage you, the negative bit, but actually it's not. To the contrary, it's actually your ally. No, not because you need to be punished. I'm not saying it for that reason. Let me explain. When you were an infant, before you started school, and any of the training of the intellect had begun, you spent most of your time operating from the right hemisphere of the brain, which is the intuitive, creative, and non-rational. But sort of leading up to school, nursery school, whatever it is, that time when the left hemisphere started being activated through, the kind of rudimentary intellectual or practical training, it was hard to make that transition over to the left. Not for everybody, not for everybody. Some people, for whatever reason, are wired so that the transition was fairly easy and seamless. But for most, to make the transition from the kind of amorphous, creative, irrational, unreasonable, mythical swirl, the beautiful swirl of creativity that is afforded us by the right-hand hemisphere, to the practical, rational, logistically referenced, linear mode of the left brain, it's a difficult one. It's really hard to make that transition over to the left brain. We don't really want to, because it was nice staying at home with our mums. It was nice being in that kind of mushy, wonderful, childlike infant space and not having to be anywhere at a certain time or think about it, And while in this sort of, you haven't quite learned to inhabit the left hemisphere and operate it with aplomb, because of course that does take a few years to get schooled in the ways of the, the everyday world. While in that quite vulnerable state, it would be inevitable that somebody will bully you or be oppressive towards you or disrespectful towards you, whether it's a teacher, a peer, or even your parents when they've lost their temper or whatever. And that, as a child, the first time these things happen, whatever it is, or any unpleasant experience occurs for the first time or the first few times as a child, it's traumatic. It's traumatic. And the more sensitive you are, which generally goes with the higher degree of awakened intelligence you have, the more traumatic it will actually be. And unless there's some very wise, enlightened, trained adult nearby, on hand, who noticed what was going on to help you process it wisely in that moment, which is rare and unlikely, that trauma will impact on you. And what you do is you retreat naturally further into the more hidden recesses, the further recesses of the right brain. And you went to ground. You went underground. Now, this doesn't preclude the fact that you then carried on developing your left brain functions, and gradually the left brain functions took over, which is the, the kind of the rational, the socialized, and the logical aspect of you. But that part of you was the bit that you kind of operate efficiently within the world, but it isn't the real you. It's not the true you. It's not the true unbridled, beautiful essence of you that sits in the creative space, because that has gone underground into the dark recesses of the right brain by now. And your true self, albeit apparently far away, knew that this new mode, this new left brain mode, was relatively speaking false and hence dangerous for you. So dangerous for you in the sense that if you became solely that, which is what does happen to a lot of people, especially the ones who are more diligent as students, the ones who are more, I don't know, obedient, maybe it's hard to know, more conventional anyway, or conformist, they will, a lot of people do really lose the true self and just become this construct and have a crisis, a midlife crisis, where they suddenly remember they had somebody in there that they can't remember even who it was, and then they have to go through the process of regaining. I'm sure you know people who've been in that phase. So the true self is feeling quite isolated and, in a sense, abandoned now. It's a little bit cold out there, way off in the side of the right brain. So it tries to get your attention to alert you to the fact that all is not as it could be. I didn't say should be, but could be. It could be better than that. But you wouldn't listen. You couldn't listen because you were too mesmerized by the world's protocols, what was going on around you, to hear the noise of the world, your thoughts and how you were dealing with it. You no longer heard the sound of your true self calling to you. So then your true self had to start shouting, but you still wouldn't listen to it. And I don't know about you, but if you're ever talking to somebody who's a bit deaf, even if it's somebody you really love, like my mum, for example, and they can't hear you, as you start shouting so they can hear you, at first you have to learn to not get angry when you shout, because we're so used to shouting only when you're angry. So they go together, in other words. It's hard to shout without being angry. And this seems to be what happens to the real self. And because you're not listening to it, it starts being horrible to you to attract your attention. Because you know what it's like. If 10 people can say wonderful things to you about yourself, and then one person will say you're crap, and that's the one that will stick in your mind. So you started listening. And what you heard made you believe that your true self was your enemy. And that set up the inner conflict that we're all familiar with between what conventionally we call the so-called angel on the one side, the socialized aspect of you, which will sit on the left, the good one. I think was the one that sticks to the rules and is well behaved and doesn't give way to kind of primal instincts or impulses and urges. And the so-called devil, which is actually your true nature, which sits over in the right hemisphere of the brain. But in fact, if anything, it was really the reverse of that. Well, I'll explain. Being treated like a devil made your true nature start acting like one. Because if you say to somebody, hey, you're mad, and you call them mad and you kind of say it enough times, they will start acting like a mad person. We know that. So if you start telling somebody they're bad, and you keep saying it enough times, they will start acting bad. That's how this works. That's the mirror effect. So being treated like a devil by you, your true nature started acting like one. It became fearful and therefore oppressive more and more, and started telling you that you couldn't do whatever it was you wanted, that somehow you couldn't, that you deserved to be enslaved somehow. It undermined your confidence. It told you that you wouldn't be able to succeed at things. So whereas your natural, when it was in its rightful way, in its healthy state, you would just have natural, unquestioning confidence about yourself. If you want to, run and climb a tree, you'd run and climb a tree. You wouldn't be filled with the fear of, oh, I can't do that. It just wouldn't occur to you. And actually, what that is the behavior of a fallen angel. So rather than be a devil, if we're going to use that model, this was kind of Lucifer, the angel of light, fallen to earth and become filled with darkness, if you like, and fear. And no doubt, in various ways, in your conflicts with yourself, in your processes with yourself, within what we normally call your conscience, when you had a conflict between something you really wanted to do that somehow didn't fit into the moral structure of your social milieu at the time, and you had the conflict between the two sides of you, the so-called angel and devil were trying to battle it out. You tried in various ways, in vain, to overcome and beat this sort of apparent devil ever since. And all the while, people around you and the situations that develop between you all mirrored that back at you by behaving oppressively and nastily. Now, you didn't know that they were mirroring your rejected angel, who has actually now become a devil. You didn't know they were doing that because that's all gone underground. You're not even aware it's there. It's so far off in the distance on the right side of the brain. So you then believe that these people really are personally coming along to oppress you and be nasty to you. Well, anyway, okay. So you know, in other words, rather than seeing these people as Buddhas in disguise, come to reflect at you what you needed to see so you could heal it. So what we're going to do in this session is draw the fallen angel, the true nature, the true, actually beautiful you, back where it belongs within you, in the command position now. So we're going to start clearing a fresh path in the brain, really, in the consciousness. And by doing so, by the law of reflections, we'll cause the situations of our lives to spontaneously transform to afford us the freedom and the joy we require now to grow and to contribute fully. And we'll be doing it by inviting the true nature, the fallen angel aspect, to move from the right hemisphere first over to the left hemisphere, because it's never really done that. So we're going to take that fallen angel that's shoved out there, all alienated and isolated on the right, welcome it rather than kind of keep up the antipathy towards it, embrace it, because it is us after all, and then move it respectfully over to the left hemisphere, just so that it can take ownership of it, it can lay claim to it as well. And then your logistical reference brain, the left hemisphere, will be under the command of your true nature, which is what really needs to happen for you to be a whole person. Once it's taken ownership of the left side, it knows the right side already, it's then free to sit in the middle of the brain, which is the command position. And then, once we've got it to go into the middle so that the true you, the true nature is in the command position, we'll get it to take ownership of the heart region as well. And finally, after that, the kidney region. The Taoists call these three, the center brain, behind the chest, and behind the belly button, the three dantians, or the fields of heaven. They're the three main so-called burning spaces that comprise what they call your immortal spirit body. So this is really, we might call it the anatomy of the soul that we're discussing here. These three main centers, which include the Hindu schema of the 7 chakras within 3 dantians. That's besides the point. And the reason we're going to do this is because the heart chi in the center of the chest not only controls the physical functions of blood circulation and so on, but also the free flow in the relational dynamic you have with yourself, and hence, by extension, with the people and the situations in your life. And the reason that we're going to get your true self to lay claim to the kidney chi is because that's what's down in the lowest center, provides the basis for your will, the will to be and the will to do, and the fearlessness to be and to do, and the vitality to be and to do it. And within 90 days, this is the traditional time span that the Taoist sages generally ascribe to any manifesting process. It doesn't mean you have to wait from now for 90 days. It just means that within this 90 days, so over the course of these next 3 months, starting instantly, all stuck external situations, all the ruts that you might have got yourself into, however mild or deep, and all the dynamics, not only between you and you, but between you and others, will have started clearing quite dramatically, albeit probably discrete drama, yet smoothly enough for everyone to be able to roll with. Remember, everyone and everything in your life, as I was saying before, is actually the Buddha in fancy dress, which, by the way, is going to be the title of my next book, so do keep the expression to yourself. And once you've acknowledged the Buddha for showing you what you need to do to heal or complete or realize yourself, the Buddha is then free to stop playing that horrible role of the oppressor or the bully for you, because he doesn't like doing that, nobody does, and can do what it likes much better, which is to be your supporter, your ally, and your most beloved friend internally, sitting there, never goes away from you, that there is. So if this schema, if this proposition has appeal, which I'm assuming or hoping that it does, this will be the moment now to, or for us to enter the meditation state, whence we were able to affect our magic. So give yourself this moment entirely as a gift to yourself, in which to get your body to be as comfortable as it wants to be, bearing in mind that you can shift position at will as often as you like, and arrange yourself sitting upright as much as you can, but preferably leaning back in a chair so you're comfortable, ideally with your feet flat on the floor. It doesn't really matter, just so that you can feel somehow your connection with the ground beneath you and with the heavens above you. Close your eyes if it feels appropriate and you desire to, and with your mind scan slowly, carefully yet lightly, through your body, from the crown of your head all the way down to your extremities, the ends of the fingers, the ends of the toes, and everywhere in between. And wherever you notice that your muscles are gripping, command those muscles to soften and let go. And work your way down through your face and your ears and your neck and your throat and your shoulders and arms and your hands and fingers, the sides, the armpits going down, between the shoulder blades and the upper chest and the middle of the chest and lower down between the shoulder blades and the upper abdominal area and the middle back and the lower abdominal area and the lower back and the pelvic floor and the buttocks and the hamstrings and the quadriceps and the adductor muscles and the abductor muscles and your calves and your shins and your ankles and your feet and your toes, and get all of it to soften by commanding the muscles to soften and relax. And do the same with your breathing. Tell your breathing to soften and relax, and to slow down and to stop snagging, so you stop holding your breath, and you start to allow the breath to come in and go out slowly and smoothly by sip. And you'll notice that instantaneously the tone of your mind becomes slower and smoother and more silken. Now visualize that somebody, by virtue of an invisible silver thread attached to the crown of your head, is suspending your crown and drawing it gently upwards towards the ceiling, which is causing your chin to drop to your chest somewhat and the back of your neck to elongate. And this elongation is affecting your entire spinal column all the way down to the coccyx at its very tip, so that your spine is long. And now visualize that you're an angel, a beautiful, beautiful angel, and you have a massive, heavy, strong, powerful pair of angelic wings, one attached to each shoulder blade. And naturally, the weight of these huge wings, after all, they would have to be big and strong enough to get you airborne, is causing your shoulders to be drawn downwards and outwards In other words, your shoulders drop and broaden. And you feel this extra breath right across your thorax. And you raise your breastbone upwards and slightly forwards. You urge the top of your breastbone forwards and upwards diagonally. And notice straight away that your natural regality, your sense of sovereignty over yourself, you as a king or the queen, has increased. You feel more noble, more dignified. Now allow the weight of the head and the shoulders and the upper body, which is considerable, to drop where it wants to go. Let it surrender to gravity and drop down below the level of the navel and fill up in the lower part of the body and the legs, making the lower part of you solid, rooted and grounded, but the upper part really light and really airy. Now, the big move. Rather than be shoved up in the front of your body, which corresponds to the left hemisphere of the brain, which is all about keeping up and doing things in the external world, and all the things that the external world, i.e. other people, are doing that could or do affect you, and your reactions to all of that, and your running commentary about all of that, and your emotional conflict about all of that, and your urges and your desires and your fears and your hopes and your dreams, all that other stuff. There is no reason to be that person. That person does not actually exist. It is actually merely a construct, a very brilliant one, a very clever one, and you've done damn well to create it. However, it is not you. What you are is much, much bigger. And where to access this you, who is much, much bigger, you need to sink back inside and occupy your back. So become aware of your shoulder blades, become aware of the front of your spine, become aware of your rear pelvic bones, of your sacral bone, and then lean back inside your body against those bones. Push back inside like you're leaning back into a very well-designed, well-crafted, well-constructed, extremely comfortable and back-supporting chair. The kind of chair that when you sit in it, it feels like everything is under your command and everything is okay. It's your throne. Now, as a little gesture, just to get your mind there, imagine that the inside of your skull is a cave, a sacred cave high in the sacred mountains. And the cave has a floor. And your mind is sitting in the front of the cave right now, gazing out through the cave mouth into the world, checking everything's okay. Gesture that you're wanting to shift its position by tilting your head back only a little millimetre or so, not even the full millimetre, quarter of a millimetre. And as you do that, your mind feels obliged to slide backwards along the floor of the cave until it's resting up against the rear interior wall of the cave, which is the rear walls of the skull. You could visualize a pile of very sumptuous, beautifully crafted, gorgeously colored silk and satin cushions sitting in abundance on the floor with you sitting on top of them. Very comfortable, really serene, the Buddha with your face on. And from back here, you notice that everything is very silent in the front of the brain. No longer is the noise of that incessant commentary, that debate, that conflict of the mind occurring. Here you are in pure consciousness, beneath which you're supported by the physical presence of your being, which is leaning back and occupying your back. You are completely and utterly in command of and accommodating, presiding over all the function and activity occurring in the front of the body. But it and the experience of the world is no longer in command or presiding over you. You've regained your power. And here you sit in your back. Allow yourself the freedom to be aware that as you sink into your back, you are actually embodying a presence that is far bigger than anything that could fit within the physical skin. You're actually embodying the background presence, the big presence that is you. The word person comes from the Greek word persona, which means mask. This person that presents itself in the everyday world is merely the mask of a presence that is utterly huge, that sits behind you. This is your background presence. This is the big presence. And as you lean back into this, the more familiar you become with it, the more comfortable you become with it, the more you learn to trust it, the more power you acquire. Benign power to create transformation in your world merely by intending it. Not by effort, not by strain, merely by intending it be so. And the voice of the frightened, disassociated, alienated, isolated, split off aspects of self which occurred when you were a child is able to be reintegrated into this powerful presence that you really are, your true nature, and no longer needs to sabotage you, will no longer need to be nasty to you, to bully you, to oppress you, because you will have heard it, you will have welcomed it back in. The power and glory that is your true nature is now in command, in command. So, from back here, I want you to access with your awareness over on the right side of the brain towards the front, but on the side, not right at the front, just at the back part of the right forebrain. The voice that was split off in your infancy, the voice of your true nature, the beautiful, playful child spirit that is you, that poor, beautiful child spirit that got split off through the trauma of having to deal with the world and all the madness in it. And there it is over on the right side. That's the voice that's been saying to you, don't know if you're going to pull this one off. Ooh, don't know if you're good enough for this. Well, don't know if it's going to work for you. And all of that sort of thing. That voice over there, I want you to say hello to it. See it turn around. Notice it has your face on it. You're the Buddha, remember, and you're sitting in the back of your cave. You're enlightened. You're beyond preference. You're beyond having your equilibrium shaken. Here you are sitting, perfectly centered, essentially all-powerful, at one with your background presence. And when I say you're the Buddha, I mean really you are. And here you are, and you're aware that over on the right, towards the front of your temporal lobe, is your child, split-off child, the source really of your true power, who's been critical of you, who's been horrible to you, who's been oppressing you, who's been bullying you. And you say to it, I really appreciate the reason you've been doing that is because I split you off and you've been trying to get my attention. And I realise that you're cold and you're alienated and you need being brought into the fold. You need to regain full command here. I realise I have usurped you, or not I, but the logical aspects of me usurped you. So now we need to reintegrate you, and I'm going to graciously, respectfully invite you to take a little walk with me if you'd be willing to. And here you are, the Buddha, you're leaning right back inside, you feel your massive presence, and over there on the right, the entity of your split-off child acquiesces. You see it nodding in acquiescence. Okay, I'll come with you. A little bit like a frightened wild animal who really needs to gain your trust, or vice versa. And you visualize yourself gesturing with your right hand very politely and confidently for the split-off aspects of you to take a little walk across the front of the cave, just inside the mouth of the cave there. You've never been in there, hasn't been in this cave for however many years it is now. Notice it feels quite a bit awkward, like you would when you walk into a place you haven't been for a long time. Can't immediately lay claim to it. And just gesture it to keep walking over onto the left side. And see that aspect of you, the split off aspects of you, hitherto split off aspects of you, taking a seat over on the left side of the brain. And you say, yeah, no, make yourself comfortable there. It's good, it's good. Just settle. Just settle and feel it. Just feel it. Feel how it feels over there. You never really went over there. Be there. Be there. Get comfortable there. Lay claim to it. It's yours. And watch your formerly split off self kind of loll about and lounge and get really comfortable and do things that a child would do really and go, oh, I like this actually. Actually, this is all right here. This is all right. And you, the Buddha, watching it all from behind, smiling benignly and compassionately, saying like, when you're ready, I'd like you to come and sit here with me in the middle. And notice that the child, is quite excited now because he's been released from imprisonment, and you can feel the poison, the toxicity falling off the child there. It regains its innocence. And bring her to sit in your lap now. Hold that child in your lap, but face out, so that the child can see into infinity through the mouth of the cave, just like you can. Just hold it really steady in your hands. You are the big Buddha. You are the big presence, the background presence. You are infinite love. You are infinite compassion, infinite wisdom. And you are holding your formerly split off inner child on your lap, facing out into infinity. And your inner child can feel the power of your love, your compassion, your warmth, suffusing its back, filling its whole body with a feeling of confidence and reassurance. You're really reassured. And you can feel your inner child taking a huge breath and sighing with an amazing feeling of relief. And then you tell your inner child, it's like it's a real honor and a pleasure to have you back where you belong in the middle. Because this is really your realm to command. This is your realm to command. While we're here on the physical plane, it's you, really, who needs to be in the command position here. But there's a bit of work to be done. It's important now that we attend to the bits below. So you ask your formerly split off self, your inner angel, to go down. There's a little hole in the floor of the cave, you notice, just over on the left, with one of those lovely wooden ladders. It's really old, this ladder. A nice inviting ladder, and there's a nice light glowing from down there, kind of warm light, but like a fire, down inside the mountain. Suggestion, you need to get down the ladder there into the heart region, into that chamber down there. And because I think some damage has been done. I think there's been a bit of closing over and contraction down there that really needs sorting out, and really only you can do it. And you notice your former self, your formerly split off self, your inner angel, goes down the steps and finds itself standing in the middle chamber, the chamber of the heart. Noticing, yes, it's true that the walls of this chamber are a little bit caving in. There's a kind of feeling like there's too much outer weight pushing inwards, compressing too much, as if cracks are going to appear at any moment. And, being all powerful because you've got the presence with you, you're with it, your inner angel takes a big breath, and as it breathes out, it goes whoosh, and the power of that expands the chamber from the inside. It pushes out with one blow all that tension that had accumulated there, that pop, 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 it pops like that plastic, that bubble wrap stuff, as all that tension releases in the chest. And there's a lever, sort of like a Jules Verne science fiction, Victorian science fiction type lever contraption thing, like a rope and pulley thing over on the right. And your inner angel goes over and adjusts it, twiddles something, moves, turns a wheel and so on. And the two halves of the breastbone open up to reveal the beautiful view from up here on the mountainside of the world outside. And it's really exhilarating and gorgeous. And having done that, the jewel, the mystical jewel of the heart, your beautiful, beautiful essence, which your angel is so familiar with, naturally now just radiates freely all around you, throughout your body, around your body, through the ether to everyone in the satsang and to everyone in the world, simultaneously inviting the reception of the same coming back at you through your back and filling up the chamber in the middle there. So this is good. You've healed that chamber, and your love energy is now activated, which means that the circulation, not only of the blood of your life, but of the events, of the people, of the situations of your life, is unblocked now and can flow freely with joy for everyone concerned. But you say, hey, angel, let's become angel now. There's like the next job, it's the kidneys. See, because the kidneys, angel, they got really affected, they got contracted. Oh, that fear and that anxiety and that nervousness, that timidity and that awful anguish of somehow not really fitting in properly, not really belonging. And that awful fear of not being belonging and being excluded or abandoned or being bullied or oppressed, and the horrible sensations of that anguish has caused those kidneys to contract, I'm afraid, and you need to get down there and sort that out. So the angel climbs down the next rope ladder into this other chamber down in the belly, and it's rather nice in there actually, because albeit rather contracted from all that fear and tension, it's very warm. There's a beautiful fire there. There's this massive cauldron burning with this eternal flame right in the core of it all. And it's really nice. It's warm, it's warm, it's warm. However, she does notice that where the kidneys are, sort of either side of the physical spine at waist height, where they are, there is a contraction. There is definitely stress on the walls of that area. And again, the angel takes a deep breath in, and with one exhalation, inflates the whole region of the lower chamber. Suddenly, where the kidneys are, there is space, there is warmth, there is relaxation, there is a sense of confidence, there is a sense of well-being, there is a sense that where something has to be done, there is infinite will with which to do it. And above all, there is a sense of absolute fearlessness, that everything is completely as it's meant to be, and everything is completely safe and will remain so forevermore. You can hear angel calling up, "Oi, you up there?" And you go, yeah. He goes, "Listen, Buddha man, Buddha woman, I think it's done. I think we sorted this one out." So you shout down, you go, "Oh, angel, come up. That's good. Come back." And the angel comes up, and the amazing thing is that when that angel comes out of that hole in the floor, it's not a little kid anymore. It's a full-blown, beautiful angel with your face on it. And something happens. It's a bit weird. You can't quite tell what it is, but there's this morphing process that suddenly occurred, almost without you realizing what happened. Now you are the angel, and here you sit, leaning up against the rear wall of the cave. You've still got your kind of Buddha costume here and there around you, but it's all disguises anyway. And you are now in command. This what was apparently your nemesis, your saboteur or ters, is now an angel that it actually always was. It has been redeemed. Excuse me, it has reclaimed its rightful place, fully in command of you. You in your physical manifestation. And it sits here in the back with you as part of the presence observing. You, to all intents and purposes now, therefore, have become this angel. You are the angel of the background presence, so to speak. And behind you, it goes on forever and forever and forever. Not of nothingness, but of presence. And this presence is Tao. And this Tao is all-powerful. It's generating this entire illusion of reality. Not just for you, but for everyone in the circle, and for everyone on the whole planet, and for everyone throughout time and space. This is the same. Now, from this place of power and compassion and connectedness, being one in the continuum with everything and everyone. Tell yourself, I am free to be whatever I choose. I am free to do whatever I choose. I'm free to be whatever I choose. I am free to do whatever I choose. I am free to be whatever I choose. I am free to do whatever I choose. Despite appearances, I am free to be however I choose. And I am free to do whatever I choose. You say it to yourself one more time for love. Despite all appearances, I am free to be however I choose. And I am free to do whatever I choose. And you know that with your heart activated as it now is, your choices will automatically, naturally, all be rooted in full empathy and wisdom, and hence kindness. So ultimately, everyone involved in every situation appertaining to you will benefit by this act of self-liberation. And remember, by setting yourself free of the rut and free of the victim role, you're setting the other who has possibly been oppressing you or bullying you, or the situation that has been bullying you, all of which are just the Buddha in fancy dress, free of the rut of the oppressor's role, which is a horrible role to play anyway. So everyone benefits. Now spread the intention of this liberating effect to encompass not just yourself and those in your world, but all humanity. Intend for all humanity to be set free of oppression. And sit back, sit right back, embody the big presence and feel it. And then see yourself wrapped in a clockwise spinning cone of light, protecting you, strengthening you, and steadying you to ride what is likely to be, in real time, a slight delay while things start shifting on the ground. And in your own time, in your own way, return now to the everyday world, as Richard Bach called it, the world of men and machines. And we will now go into the question and answer segment of the satsang. I think over to Sue.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, that was certainly much smoother than last week, eh?
It certainly was. Okay, so we're going to start with a question from Ruth in New Zealand. I need to move on from a 45-year marriage. I feel guilty, scared, and responsible for the effect it will have on others.
Well, you're brave, Ruth. That must be, wow, 45. Do you know that gag that Ronnie Lang used to say? Because most people were generally going on about having to get out of the marriages they were in most of the time, one way or another. Some didn't, actually. The minority didn't. Back in the, the people I know from back then. One or two didn't, but most did. One or two didn't, though, which is quite amazing. He said, so that the judge is in the divorce court, and a 90-year-old man and a 90-year-old woman come in and ask for a divorce. He says, of course you can have a divorce, but why? Why do you want a divorce now at 90 years old? And they go, we were waiting for the kids to die. The idea is that you're not here to please other people, and you are here to realize yourself fully, as we've just been doing. When you realize yourself fully, it naturally gives permission to the other to realize themselves fully, which they will have resistance to, of course, but that doesn't mean it isn't what's lying in their path. The Tao takes care of everybody. It's not for you to take care of everybody. Each person has their own Tao, their own way, their own protective force and mechanism. And if your intention is to effect the transformation of conditions in a way by which everyone involved benefits, that is actually what will be. And of course, there will be momentary upset. Really could be likened to coming to the end of a really good book, which you don't really want to end, and think, well, I don't want that book to end. It passes. I'm not making light of it or belittling it. Of course, after 45 years, the habits die really hard, the attachments are really strong, and it would be jolly, jolly painful. However, given the right intention and the right level of love as a friend, as a caring friend, the other will be able to negotiate that passage. And that is not your responsibility. We are each completely responsible for our own experience and the choices we make in how we react to those experiences. And we can either choose to be a victim of them, or we can choose to acknowledge our responsibility in them and say, I choose for this to heal me and make me stronger. And the more painful it is, the more powerful the healing and the strengthening effect. And being somebody who has been left and heartbroken myself more than once, having had experience of this awful, awful pain, I know it well, it works. If that's my intention, that's what happens. Everybody is capable of healing themselves, and it's these situations that actually get people to grow into the true angels they really are. And if you have that as your intention for those around you, that is what will actually happen. And yeah, it will take courage on your part, but then what doesn't? And you have the courage to believe, you definitely have the courage to intend the very best for everybody and stand steady in the midst of all the flurry that will inevitably occur, while the dust settles and the Tao shunts everything into the optimal position for that to be the actual constellation.
Geraldine says, Doc, can you say something about freeing oneself from unhealthy obsessions that persist, although illogical?
Yeah, the obsessions are that fallen angel aspect, the inner child who was split off, trying to make some kind of order and sense out of what appears to be, when you're in your right brain, not really inhabiting your left brain, a very nonsensical one too, when you're a little kid. And its way of making some kind of order, some sort of schema out of that, is to create little rituals. And these rituals become habitual, and they become obsessive, because the inner child has been dissociated, so it feels on its own and isn't connected to the main body of the motion and phenomenon that is you. And so it's there all out on its own. It has to create these little obsessions, because that's how it identifies itself. And that is really what's ruling you anyway, that inner child, because it's split off. You don't realize where these obsessions are coming from. However, once the child that's been screaming for your attention by, in this instance, kind of getting you to act out obsessively or think through things obsessively, once that's now integrated and brought into center stage and is part of you and has got its rightful place, running the show, which is where it really was meant to have been all the time, your awareness will grok every time you are being obsessive. So rather than it being an unconscious, compulsive acting out of the obsession, whether it's in the mind or in your behavior, There'll be clearly a moment in which you know you've got options. And you might want to go the obsessive route, that's your choice in that instant, or you might think, well, actually, I don't need to do that one. And I talk from experience. We've all got the same syndromes to varying degrees at varying times. I used to have an anxiety worrying one. And when I noticed it coming up, I noticed it was today. I was sitting with the guy that I'm working with, talking, having a coffee in the sun, actually, having a little break. And I was saying, wow, it's kind of the next bit's coming, where it's like, like where we've got to deal with all the business guys and all the rest of it. And there's always this irrational part of me that goes, whoa, what if I can't do it? And that bit. And then I said, and it's really interesting, because in the old days, I'd have gone into a little anxiety obsession on some level, whether it was very loud or center stage or not, it would have been there. Whereas now, the other voice from the background presence stepped in immediately and just said, if it's good enough, it will go fine. That's it. If what you've done is good enough, it will go fine. And it doesn't matter if it's not good enough, fuck it. If you learn a lesson, you learn, and I'll do it better next time. There's no need to invest in it, because this won't make any difference. None of it actually matters, because it's all just a beautiful dance of energy and swirl and motion, light, colour, and all the rest of it. And at some point, we kind of drop these bodies, and all of that is so what? So that's what I find happens by coming into the background presence and exercising the option. It becomes almost instantaneous. It cancels out the obsession. So that is the best I could come up with as advice for you in this moment. And I hope I conveyed it clearly enough.
Just before we have the next question, we've got a few comments in that I thought you'd like to hear, Stephen. Malkit says, thank you for this powerful topic in meditation. Bless you.
Thank you, and bless you.
Afcare says, what an amazing and freeing and wonderful togetherness with gratitude. Even though it's evening and rainy in Holland, the sun is shining with a whole brain. Thank you again for the deep experience of being.
Oh, you're really welcome. I actually feel your sunshine permeating my brain even as we speak. Thank you, Afcare.
And Victoria says, thank you so much. What a beautiful and deeply moving process. Tears of sadness rolling, seeing my little me, sacred angel, turning mixed with the tears of hope in seeing her come out. Deep thanks. I've been struggling for a long time with partial memories of childhood trauma and not knowing what happened. I can see it translates into my adult life as the world is unsafe. I felt all this shifting around at a deep, deep level. Utter magic. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Victoria. You really, really are. Yeah, I find it rather exciting as well. This way of seeing it. It's very, very powerful, isn't it? Yeah. No. Thank you for saying. Yeah.
This next question is from Lana. And Lana says, I'm kind and considerate. I have a recurring theme of others being jealous and then maliciously undermine my fun relationships. Makes me now want to hide, as this has been very problematic. What do I need to do to stop this?
Lana, that is, common, isn't it? I mean, I think we all have that to varying degrees at varying times. And I think that, let me get clear on this one. When people are acting out jealously and scuppering and messing up and getting in the way of your good fortune or the harmony in your relationships with those around you, it mirrors the fact that unconsciously you're doing that the split off inner child who's begging for your attention is doing that. It's jealous of what's going on as part of the main story, even though without the inner child integrated, what's going on in the main story is not really complete and it's not really anything to be jealous about. But when you're stuck outside a building and you look in through the windows at night and it's cold outside and it's all lit up and nice and there's people sitting in there, it all looks really, really cozy and lovely, doesn't it? And you really want to be in there, and you're, for a moment, however lovely you are enlightened, you might think, oh, that's not fair, I want that. So you're kind of jealous of them for a moment. And that's exactly how it is for your inner fallen angel, your inner child. It gets jealous of you, and it sabotages stuff because it wants to trip you up because you're not listening to it. Why should you have all the fun if it's shoved outside? Now, by integrating the inner child, bringing it back into you, and letting it take center position and be in command, as we've just gone through the process, it stops actually being a child. It becomes the full-blown Buddha, angel, or whatever you want to call it. And all that self-sabotaging actually will stop happening. You might not have even been aware you were doing it. Usually that's how it is. It's unconscious. And that's why the others come to us, these other people, which are actually the Buddha in disguise. They come to us to show us what we're doing to ourselves so that we can stop doing it. So if you look to yourself and reintegrate the inner child from the right and bring I keep saying him, bring her in to yourself and to sit fully central inside so that she feels fully in command of everything, you will find, I wager, that within a very short space of time, that those around you will stop interfering because you stopped interfering with yourself. It really works like that. And you can supplement that with an affirmation, sort of just to compound the intention, which would be, the more I integrate myself, the more one I am with myself, the more approving I am with myself, the more I support my own self, the more everybody around me supports me too. Now everybody gives me space because I give myself space. Everybody encourages me to have everything I want because I encourage me to have everything I want. That kind of affirmation, I was just making it up somewhere, but you get my drift.
Okay, this last question is from Jennifer in Australia. I'd like to follow my heart, but I can't work out what it wants.
Jennifer, I thought you were going to say, I want to follow my heart, but it ran off down the road and I can't catch up with it. What does your heart want? Well, I don't know how. It's a very tricky one, that, trying to figure out what your heart wants, because when the mind is very active, it makes so much noise, it can't hear the heart. So I would suggest, Jennifer, that the way to do it is to sink back inside, really sink back inside, and just relax your heart, relax the chest like we were doing before. Have your mind at the back of your head, be the big presence, and know that whatever it is you're questioning about, the choice has actually already been made before you were even conceived, let alone born. The destiny's already got it all sorted out for the highest good. And without expecting any instant answer at all, you ask your heart, you just say to that part of you, show me what I am meant to be doing. Show me the step that needs to be taken now for the highest good. Just show me it in your own time, but show it to me as clear as daylight. Okay, and then let go, kabang. And you've got to let go, though. You mustn't try and listen to what it's saying at that point. Just stop and get on with doing whatever you're doing. Within a day, 2, 3, 4, whatever maximum, you'll have your answer. It'll come clear as daylight. That's kind of how it works. Ask your heart as if your heart was a person. Look, imagine a Buddha in your heart and say to the Buddha, Jennifer, Buddha of the heart, tell me what it is you want me to do. I hope everybody, I feel and wish that this had a really powerful impact, and that you are witness now to a miraculous dismantling of what appeared to be solid blocks that were preventing your full freedom and capacity for living and enjoying this adventure to the full, and thereby in your freedom, in your growing new freedom, give permission to everyone around you to let go of their shackles as well, so that you and everyone in your world are liberated from all unnecessary suffering, and joy increases exponentially for you and for everyone in your world, and ultimately for everyone in the world. Thank you. Do come next week. I think it's going to be even more special. It's getting more powerful every week. Lots of love. Thank you, and